Kneel Before Blog presents Kneel Before Pod.
Hello, and welcome to Kneel Before Pod interviews. I'm your host Craig, and recently had the pleasure of chatting with Alex Zahara, the actor playing Uncle Howard in the recently released Final Destination Bloodlines. The conversation covers coming by acting work in the modern industry, rubbing elbows with A-listers, and how to die on screen. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. I'm delighted to be joined by Alex Zahara. How are you doing?
Good, man. Yourself?
I'm doing good, yeah. It's not blisteringly hot in Scotland like it has been recently, so I'm feeling a bit more comfortable than I was at the weekend.
Right on. Like we just talked about this, it was 98 degrees or something in Disneyland the other day. My wife has never been, so we went together and we hit the 2 hottest days on record this month, I think, ever in Disneyland.
That's what climate change does to you, if we're going to get political early on.
No, please do. Go for it.
All right, well, we'll just go right back to the beginning. So you said in the stab that you recorded, thanks for doing that you've been acting for about 30 years. So how did you get started all those years ago?
My mom says I was doing sock puppet plays behind the couch for the other kids in the neighborhood when I was 3 years old. So I think I come by the performance side of it, honestly. Plus, I watched about 4.2 billion hours of television as a child. Yeah, I used to sit up and watch all the old classics. I'd sneak up at night and turn on the TV at midnight and watch CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC Nostalgia Theatre, and watch the classics like Treasure of the Sierra Madre, Casablanca, Citizen Kane, you name it. So, yeah, I really got hooked as a kid.
And then you just decided to pursue the craft, so to speak.
Yeah, well, in all honesty, I took a gap year, traveled a bit, and did a bunch of stuff. And then sitting on a beach in Greece, I went, I want to go to film school. Boom, that was it. And I was like 24 or something like that. And long story short, ended up going to UBC, University of British Columbia. After the first general year and having to get all the requirements, I got accepted to the film program, I accepted to the acting program, and I was offered a position in the technical theater program based on the work I'd done that year. I didn't even apply, which was a big honor. Anyhow, of all the things I sat and went, what would I gain the most from it? And I thought acting was the most personally challenging because you had to really clean your emotional house in order to play another character, right? And I just found that it really helped me as a person becoming an actor because it gave me clarity of thought and clarity of mind and clarity of soul.
And you've done a lot over your career.
Yeah, fair bit.
The IMDb page goes on forever. It's quite impressive. But what are your favorite types of things to do, types of projects, types of characters, or do you have any?
I'm a journeyman actor. I always say that because I'm a working actor, constantly learning as I go along. And I like to be able to feed myself and keep my dog Cooper in kibble. I have a little black dachshund. As you can see, he's on my lap right now, giving me kisses. Hello, buddy. We've been away for 4 days. So honestly, it's the job that I'm working at and paying me at the moment because I put everything into it and I enjoy what I do. I love what I do. But I'll give you some highlight favorites. I also do a lot of theater too. And about 10 to 12 years ago now, I think, is it that long? Jeez. I played Sherlock Holmes in that comedy Baskerville. It's a takeoff on The Hound of the Baskervilles, and it's a comedic takeoff where 3 actors play about 48 or 84 characters, and then there's Watson, and then Sherlock, and I was Sherlock. And I'm blonde hair, blue-eyed, the most opposite looking of most of Sherlocks you can imagine. But a friend of mine was directing, John Murphy, and he said, no, you got to come out and audition, buddy. So I said, okay. And I auditioned, I got it. So that was super fun. We toured that for 3 months, played it in Vancouver at the big theater, Stanley Theater here. It was amazing. But in terms of film, my favorite projects I've ever been involved in, my favorite piece of television that I'm the most proud of is the Outer Limits episode called Tribunal, where I portrayed the real-life commandant of Auschwitz, Karl Rademacher. The character's name was. Sam Egan, a good friend of mine, he was the showrunner of Outer Limits. He wrote it as a survivor's tribute to his dad who survived Auschwitz, Leo Egan. I met Leo when he was 84 years old. He came on set. It just keeps the memory of the Holocaust alive. And that's the thing I think it's most important so we never repeat something like that again. Mind you, if you look at Rwanda and the purges in Uganda with Idi Amin, and there's still ongoing ethnic cleansing in the world. And it's just so sad and frightening to see. But that's the piece I'm the most proud of. But the most fun, honestly, I think as a little boy, growing up playing cowboys and whatnot, I got to shoot the Western open range with Kevin Costner, Robert Duvall, Annette Bening, and others. I mean, it was a big gunfight at the end. We're all shooting them up. We worked on it for about, 2 to 3 weeks, and then we were doing the big finale, and Kevin comes up and, Alex, you bleeper, punches me in the arm. You get to shoot me. I'm like, no. So cool. In the movie, there's a big gunfight at the end, and my character shoots Costner in the leg, and then immediately Robert Duvall's character blows me away, my character, Chet, away with a double-barrel shotgun. And I was just like, yes! And I did my own stunt, too. I flipped over backwards. I got rigged up and whatever. But when I hit the mat, the stunt team or whatever, it wasn't their fault, I don't think, but the mat popped up funny and it went into frame. And the camera operator lost his mind, this Polish operator, or Hungarian, I think. And he just lost his mind. I can't say the number of expletives he said, but they started with an F and ended with an R. And he just lost his mind and like, you ruined my shot, the best shot of this entire movie. You've ruined it. And he walked off set. Wouldn't come back.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he just lost his mind. So then Norm Howell was the stunt coordinator, and we looked like brothers from another mother. It was frightening. He actually did the stunt. So you see me get shot and fly over, and then him take the fall, and it looks like he breaks his neck and goes over all weird. And that was a lot of fun. But Final Destination, Bloodlines, was a peak. It was my 40th death on screen.
Oh, nice. And we'll definitely get to Final Destination. I do have some questions about that. Working with Costner must have been great. You said you throw yourself fully into projects, and it seems that he does as well, and him directing his movies and so on.
You can see the goosebumps. Look at that. Just remembering working with him, giving me goosebumps sitting here with you like 20 years later.
It must have been great just being around him because of how passionate and committed he is. He's still trying to direct his movies that aren't going to do well, unfortunately, but he's at it.
I'll tell you a quick story here. Well, quick. Haha. Me and a quick story that's pretty difficult. We were shooting it, and when I found out I was supposed to do a Stargate episode and shave my head. My agent calls me on a Sunday and says, hey, dude, they want you in Calgary tomorrow to shoot Open Range. And I'm like, what? But I'm supposed to do this thing and shave my head. He goes, I know. So I said, okay, look, I'll call the director, because I know him, Peter DeLuise, and I'll call the makeup guy, Todd Masters of FX. He created the Borg Queen.
Oh, wow.
And I have a pumpkin he made, a little foam pumpkin face with a weird, like, screaming face from the 1980s. We made that connection. Hillary Clinton was his lawyer, by the way. Little lawsuit going on. Anyhow, I'm supposed to shave my head, and I called Peter. He said, do the movie. We'll make it work. And Todd says, we'll punt. American football reference. We'll make it work. Okay, great. So I fly the next day and go do the movie, and Costner was so great. I was on set, when to go. They were shooting, and then he saw me, came over and shook my hand and said, Alex, really happy you could be here. I know you do a lot of bigger stuff in TV, and this is a smaller role in the film, but we really wanted you here. And I just about fell over on the floor. But of course, I was trying to keep my cool, so I go, well, a secret you don't know, Kevin, is that, I think he said, Mr. Costner goes, no, call me Kevin. Okay. Secret you don't know, Kevin, is that I'd pay you to let me be here. But we did that, and talk about freedom. He didn't restrict you. He knew exactly what he wanted, but he didn't restrict you as an actor. And this one scene, I don't know if it's in the behind the scenes DVD because I've never seen it, but Duvall's character, him and Costner, Duvall and Costner, take us captive, me and my two cronies in our little gang of cowboy bad guys. And they tie us up in the jail, lock us up, and they're chloroforming us. So they're putting chloroform over a cloth and putting it over our nose. And a couple guys went down, fighting. And when Duvall went to put it over my mouth, this just came out of me. I went, you're dead, old man. I'm going to kill you. You're dead. You don't even know it. I swore a little bit. And then he goes, shut up, puts it over my mouth. And then, of course, the only time in my life I've had a fake mustache and beard, because I had to shave it for the Stargate show, and they did a bald cap on me because I did 1 week of that movie, and then I had to go do a week of Stargate, and then back to 3 weeks of the other one. So I had this little custard goatee and mustache, and so when he put the thing on my mouth, my mustache popped off. I'm on camera, and I'm like, shit, what am I going to do? For a millisecond went through my head, so I passed out away from camera, turned my head, so I passed out over there. It was just quite amusing that he had done that, and then he goes, hey kid, that was a good improv. You keep that shit up. And he slaps me on the shoulder. I'm like, Robert Duvall said I did a good improv.
That is a great story.
Look at the goosebumps again. You can see them. Others can't. I kid you not. I am goosebumping from head to toe right now. Because seriously, Robert Duvall, who is an icon, for me at least, of acting, he said I did a good improv. And then here's the thing, too. I didn't do that to give myself lines more and whatever. I had one line in the movie. I come in and shake the rain off my hat, and I go, well, looky here. That's my whole line in the entire movie. Scripted. But I just did that because you're in character and it happened. And a gunfighter guy's not just going to let some old dude cover his mouth and put him out. No way. But literally, it just came out. I didn't think about it. I didn't plan it. Just the words shot out of my mouth. And they appreciated it. Kevin was cool with it. And that's the other thing, too. Robert Duvall, he introduced himself. He was so cool. He just, no, you call me Bobby. Everybody call me Bobby. Just call me Bobby. And the people around him, he had them call him Bobby. Another real quick one. I recommended a local little cafe restaurant. It was this little cafe, but it was amazing food, almost like a Michelin star place. And I said, it's some of the best food ever. Well, on my final day, I did half a day, and then I came home back to where we were shooting in the little town, Canmore, and I'm walking past the restaurant that I'd recommended to Robert Duvall. Literally, dude, I'm walking past, all of a sudden, bang, 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 on the glass, right beside my head. There's something thundering on the glass, beating on the glass, just about jumped out of my skin. I look over and just frightened. I'm like, what the heck? It's Robert Duvall. And he's waving, come in. So I'm like, okay, and I go in, and he's there with his girlfriend or fiance at the time, now wife, and Craig Storper, the writer, and they're having a meal. And he goes, Alex, this is a great recommendation. Best goddamn tiramisu I've ever had. Here, try this. And he spoon feeds me his tiramisu with his own fork. And I'm just never carrying her that I'm lactose intolerant and I have to take some pills, but that's okay. I'm just... So they were really just totally normal, cool people. These guys, they have nothing to prove because they are who they are.
Yeah. Sometimes you hear about these really famous actors being very diva-ish on set, for want of a better word, and
Yeah.
don't let anybody near them and all that stuff. So it's good to hear that such icons can be so down to earth and generous as well.
But here's the deal. Annette Bening, Sir Michael Gambon was in it. Dumbledore. They were totally cool. I got a great picture of me and Michael. He's got his hand over my shoulder, and he's passed away now, God bless him. But he had the largest hands of any man I've ever seen on the planet. And he even says it. His hands are huge. I'll get into that in a sec, but in all honesty, the A-listers that I work with are all been like that. They've been super cool because they're just really good at their craft. They were just the best people. And I have worked with those quote-unquote diva types, and I think it stems from either insecurity, fear, being non-relevant anymore, or obsolete or something. I think if you do your craft, you do it well, let that speak for you. So the few people that I've worked with that, and I tend to forget those people because why would you want to remember them? They're a bunch of jackasses, pardon my language, but you know what I mean? I've run into a few or worked around a few, and why give them any more time? Can I tell you a quick story?
Of course, go ahead. This is what you're here for.
Omar Sharif. I had the great fortune of working with him on the first film I ever did in my life. 1997, big feature. But the first film, it was almost the first gig, actually. It was the first professional gig that I did, The 13th Warrior. And there was a big round of auditions, and then they came back for a second round of auditions. The first round, they wanted big guys, 6'4", 200, whatever pounds. The second round of auditions came through, and there's giant black writing about an inch and a half high. Must be strong actors only, because they had all these gym monkeys come in and roid monkeys. So I go in, I do my audition, I get it, do my thing. I'm sitting around on set one day, first day of shooting, and we're all waiting for Omar Sharif and Antonio Banderas to show up. It's directed by John McTiernan. Die Hard, Hunt for Red October, Predator. We're waiting around, and then, sure as heck, there comes Omar Sharif, followed by an entourage, and my heart just went... It was just beating out of its chest because I'm a huge David Lean fan, and Omar was in David Lean's film Lawrence of Arabia, plus Dr. Zhivago. He was Dr. Zhivago, and literally he's right there. And I just really admire the man, his work, and who he is as a person too. And I'll tell you, I fanboyed like you wouldn't believe, but I kept my cool. But here's another A-lister that is not like that. He wouldn't talk about himself. He wouldn't tell stories. He wouldn't do whatever. You had to pull them out of him. He was not an egotist. We sat across the Viking table in 100-degree heat for a week or more, and we started telling a few stories, this and that. And he says, Alex, you want to hear a story? I said, yeah, of course. When I was doing Lawrence of Arabia, and forgive me, it sounds like I'm imitating him, but he has a wonderful voice. And he says, when I was doing Lawrence of Arabia, I said, I'd never ridden in camel. Never. I was born in, I think he was born in Egypt or Lebanon, grew up in Egypt, whatever, either one. He said, I'd never ridden a camel. My father was in the timber business. He was a lumberman. We had a car. Says, I went to David and I said, David, listen, I think I should be tied to the camel. And David Lean was like, oh, dear boy, no. You'll fall, you'll be crushed, the camel will kill you. And he said, David, the possibility of the camel falling is very small. The possibility of me falling from the camel is very great. So suffice to say, when you watch, I think it's when they do the charge on Aqaba, if you watch really carefully, you might be able to see, because they took the same color black robes that he's wearing and tied him to the saddle of the camel and strategically pinned it to hide the fact that he's tied down. I'm not sure about this part, but I swear, when he rides off, he goes, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And that's him freaking out. That's not in the script.
Nice.
So there you go.
That's another great story. It's interesting you said about playing Sherlock Holmes, a comedy version of Sherlock Holmes, because I did have a question about something similar, because you've done Lego voice acting. So you've played, in the case of the Marvel ones, existing characters, but in a kind of tongue-in-cheek way. So what is it that goes into preparing to play a known character, but a comedic version of them? Because obviously you have to be recognisable, but also recognizably a spoof of them.
Yeah. You have to be funny because a lot of these characters are quite serious. In Jurassic World Lego, I played Big Hoskins. He had a skirty. And I had him very, all right, let's go. Sort of a cross between, the actor escapes me now, but the guy who played the Sergeant Lee in Full Metal Jacket. Gosh, he'll come back to me. That and just every wacko gym instructor I've ever had. Let's go. All right, move it. And it's in the writing. It's right there. Luckily, the writers are excellent and the humor's there. But also, as you get to know the character, you bring your own personal stuff to it. And in that one, my middle team were so inept. We had our little electrical zappers, and we never zapped the dinosaurs and stuff because we zapped ourselves because we were so stupid and incompetent. But it was fun. You just bring your own personal little, you'd fall and have a little a little cross between, played Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd. In Taxi, he was, hey, Alex, what day is it? Oh, never mind that. What month? What year? He was a little cross between all that. And then for Red Skull, ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. Ich habe Freunde aus Deutschland. So I speak a bit of German. A little like Charlie Chaplin in The Great Dictator. And just bring a bit of that bluster and hypocrisy to the whole event. So yeah, I bring a little Red Skull. Captain America. How good to see you again. Do the little mustache twirl. Mind you, he has no mustache or facial hair at all.
There's no face.
I was going to say that. No face.
Obviously, he was in live action, originated by not Hugo Weaving, because there was a previous one, but Hugo Weaving, I think he camped it up a bit as well. So there was kind of
I'm sure.
comedic edge to his performance in that movie.
Well, yeah, because it was so extreme. These characters are so extreme that you have to live up to that. If you had a drug shot into you or experimental drug that turned you into that guy and you lost your face, you might be a little over the edge or over the top too.
Probably, yeah. I can see it. So voiceover work versus acting in person. I've spoken to a lot of people that have done both and heard different experiences about what they prefer or how they approach both, because obviously it's a completely different discipline, isn't it?
Yep.
What's the experience of doing both been like for you?
Well, I tell you, it's different, but each have their own challenges. You think about it. Like, there's some voice actors out there, like my friend Gary Chalk. I think he's done like 4,000, and I'm not kidding, 4,000 episodes of animation voiceover. So it's the coming up with the voices, it's being original, it's being expressive, and giving life to these lines that someone else has written, and then you have to give life to, maybe alter slightly or not. And then there's a challenge. Being behind the mic all day, it can be exhausting. I mean that. I used to be the voice of a well-known electronics shop here in Canada. I did all the commercials. And holy smokes, man, at the end of doing a day of seasonal commercial work, I was exhausted. 8 hours. And you'll have to be really excited, not like this too, because I'm advertising the store. But when you're doing cartoons or animation, same sort of thing. When you do characters that are fighting, one of my characters was Mistvern in, my brain is so bad with this stuff. But Mistvern, I was always talking like this. I had some sort of asthma, lung problem. And when you have to do the fighting, you have to... and you're physically making the motions. So sometimes, I'm not kidding, I'd be dripping sweat in the booth, because it's also warm and hot in the booth. Or if you're recording in a group like that, it has its own challenges. Mind you, you don't have to memorize the words, but you have to bring an emotional truth to the words, even though you still have them for reference. So my first voice gig I ever did, I was poring over. It was Roswell Conspiracies back in like 97. I'm poring over the scripts the night before, because I booked the lead character. And I'm just going nuts, right? And I go in there, and some guys are like, no, I'll just read it on the day when we get in there. I'm like, what? Because they're so good. They've done it so well. There's no such thing as a cold read for them anymore, because they're always on and they're always performing.
A lot of time when you're performing as a voice actor, you'll be having a conversation and you won't get to hear the other side of the conversation. So you won't know what the performance is and how the lines are being delivered and stuff. So I can imagine that'll be a major difference, because a lot of the time, well, most of the time, hopefully on set, you will be in a conversation. You'll be talking to the other actor.
Yeah, I mean, that can be a difficult part sometimes, but what they'll do a lot of times is they'll play the other person's line if they've already recorded it. But if you're the first to go and you haven't recorded it, well, then you're kind of out of luck. But it works out. It really works out, because the plot is there. Everything's there. You can feel the intensity of it. You know what's going on. You're pretty sure how they're going to play it. And sometimes they'll have you do 2 or 3 different takes on a line, depending on maybe what the other person may or may not do. So they're covered that way. But it was a bit weird. One of the first times I ever did a show, just having people not there. Because as a theater-based actor, I'm used to immediate interaction. And yeah, you're like, okay, I don't know how they're going to say this to me, but I'll respond this way. Yeah, it can be challenging. But after a while, your repertoire grows and your skill set grows, and you know pretty much what they're going to do. I think it comes with experience.
Just like everything.
Yeah, exactly. You learn and become better at your job. Like, I'm better at petting Cooper, as you can see right now.
And listeners, just take his word for it that there's a dog present.
Yeah. Little black Dasha named Cooper. We had 3. Ruby and Stella, a black and tan was Ruby, and a ginger was Stella. They lived 15 and a half years. They passed away to the year, a day apart to the year. And then I said to my wife, well, let's take a break. It was Shannon had them for their whole lives. I'd been around for half their lives. And I said, well, let's just see how we are without a dog for a while. And okay. Well, I lasted about 2 months, because I'm at home here, as you can see, and I was lonely because my wife has a real job. So yeah, we got Cooper and all's good. Enough about my doggy. Go on, sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm loving the randomness. I'm loving the off-format conversation we're having here. It's great. It was interesting you mentioned Gary Chalk, because I follow a lot of animation stuff. I love watching animation stuff, so I know who the heavy hitters in the industry are, and I can sort of recognise their voices a lot of the time. So you have people like Gary Chalk, Peter Cullen, and so on, who are very much the A-listers of the voice acting industry. But normies, so to speak, who go to the cinema will never know who they are. And I often feel like the big animated films that come out are doing a disservice to the voice acting industry, because they're casting A-listers to do the voice, but a lot of them aren't very good at voice acting. So there seems to be no respect for the discipline, at least at an executive level.
I think it comes down to the marketing. A lot of it, they figure, well, they have a built-in audience with the big stars and whatnot, and they don't have any faith maybe that the voice actors can come across, or the numbers of people will turn up to see or stream it if it's just mere voice actors, right? But their target audience that they want to appeal to, the wider audience, is the people that don't normally see that or don't normally watch animation. But what they're forgetting about, I think, is their base audience, which is people like yourself and myself who enjoy a good animated movie or show. But that's the problem, is it comes down to marketing, I think, in numbers. And then, of course, in film acting, it's more subtle. Film is more subtle than animation in a lot of ways because you're dealing with superheroes a lot of these times. And if you're dealing with a person who primarily does dramas or whatever, when they go and get in front of the mic to give a performance that large. I had a great teacher in university, Neil Freeman, God bless him, he's passed away, but he said, on your chest you have a performance dial, and it goes from 0% to 100%. And you can turn that dial down or turn it up as needed. And I think what's happened with a lot of these film actors is they don't realize they've got that dial. They're very used to talking like this and being famous, being this level of performance. So when they have to go to here, it feels like I'm overacting, I'm like theater acting, I'm whatever. So that's, I think, that lies in the problem, is they just don't have the skill set to do it properly.
Yeah, I find that with the big animated films where they just get someone in because of their name. I understand the marketing side of it as well. Money makes the world go round and all that.
Yeah, but then again, I hate to say it, maybe I shouldn't mention it, but look what just happened with SW movie with a bunch of little people. It was a disaster. Oh, man. I just see a Snow White.
You mentioned superheroes there, and you've done a few superhero adjacent things, particularly on the CW. One of the questions I had was about Supergirl, where you're a hologram. What went into filming the hologram? I imagine it was something that you did to the side and they added it in later, or was there something more to it?
In Vancouver, and a lot of film, we do read-throughs. So when you're filming an episode and you take lunch one day, they schedule the read-through for the next episode. So the director wants to hear it out loud and hear people might play it, whatever. And I said, unabashedly, but it's true, I'm a really good cold reader. So I can just read a script and put a life into it. Like you're talking about, how do they do it? I'm able to do that. I can just read scripts, and because you know the story, and that's my goosebump meter again. But I'm excited about something, I get goosebumps. So I'm a really good cold reader. I would do the read-throughs. I did the read-throughs for all the CW shows. Flash, Arrow, all of them, you name it, including Supergirl. Not so much Supergirl, but the others. Come in Supergirl. They had me reading, and they said, listen, you got a really great voice. And we have this little hologram character we want. But you got such a great voice. Would you mind doing this? You can still audition for the show and do whatever. You won't be excluded. But would you do this little character? And I said, yeah, sure. And so they just gave it to me. I didn't audition. They just gave it to me. But we didn't know what it was exactly, what they were going to do. Originally scripted, it says the little Kryptonian man. And they accidentally activate some hologram. And this guy starts talking. My character had 2 or 3 lines. And then it says, as he continues talking, and then there's a whole scene with the main characters. About a page and a half, maybe 2 pages of dialogue between them. And I don't even remember who it was right now. But it says, as the Kryptonian man continues. Well, what the heck does he continue to say? You've got to write me something. I can't just make up. How do you improv Kryptonian dialogue about... Basically, he's a tour guide of Krypton. So I pointed that out to them and said, by the way, I don't think I got it till the night before I had to film. So I had this massive page of dialogue, just nonstop monologue of Kryptonian. If you were doing a flyover Britain, that's sort of what it was. Ah, the Emerald Isle, or whatever. Oh, look, it's Hadrian's Wall. So they get the dialogue, and I actually shot it on set, but we were in the Splinter unit. And after the main unit was done with this and that, we had to rush in and do this. And I think I had 1 or 2 takes to get it. And they were like, okay, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. We got to get out of here. I'm like, okay, here we go, whatever. And they were packing up stuff and doing this and that. And they're screaming at people, everybody stop work. We need like a minute. Just stop working. It was a Friday night and they all want to get home because it's called Fratterday. Because you work so late Friday that you're into Saturday. And then they don't have a life on the weekends. So everybody stopped. And I think I did it in 1 take. And then they did 1 safety and they had me spin around on this like record turntable. So we filmed it like 2 a.m. and chaos and whatever, but it all worked. So there you go.
It must have been interesting going onto those sets as a guest, seeing all the well-oiled machine that people always tell me that they are, and you kind of slot into their routine.
Oh, yeah. I did Stargate, usually 1 episode a year for like most of the run of the show. Me and a buddy, Dion Johnson, played all their big, heavy prosthetic makeup aliens, like the lizard men, the Unas. This is the international sign of Unas. I'm wiggling my fingers up and down in the air. There we go. That was a well-oiled machine because they'd done it for so many years. It was like a family, a well-oiled machine that was a functional family, as opposed to most families, which are a little dysfunctional. But they just came together and everything happened. It was so smooth. Any hiccups that arose, there was always like 20 people with a solution like that. And I talk about fanboying. Guess who I met doing a Flash read-through? Mark Hamill.
Oh, wow. Well, he was in a few episodes.
He played the Joker, whatever.
The Trickster in that one.
Oh, Trickster, sorry, the Trickster.
Basically the Joker, though. He was doing his Joker voice.
Exactly. But I met him What a gentleman. So cool. And that's what I was going to say about Omar Sharif too. What a gentleman. He told the stories. He took us all out for dinner one night and we had talked a long time. This is back to Omar now. And we were talking, whatever. And we talked about whiskey and this and that. I love scotch and he got me involved in it. He goes, "Hey, Alex, do you want the whiskey?" And I was like, "Yes, Omar." And he introduced me to Scotch whiskey. There's the goosebumps again. Mark was the same. Super gentleman, very kind. He said, "Oh, you've got a great voice." Because I was doing multiple characters. That's the thing, as the male reader, you will read multiple characters during the read through. Sometimes I'm in scenes reading to myself back and forth. I do a lot of accents. I did an episode of Ice, the show that Ray Winston did. Two things with that. We were in the initial read through for the pilot, and his son, the character was hiring his son, was supposed to be a mixed race. You say in England, it's not African American, obviously, but of African descent, or black, and a lot of people still use the term black, etc., and Caucasian. So I'm doing a Cockney, right? I'm reading that essay. Hey, look, Dad, I don't give a shit, Dad. Pardon the language. I don't give a crap, Brad. I'm going to go down. We're going to get the pills. Going to have a good time, right? Yeah, okay. Moving on. So we do all this, and in the break, Ray's having a cigarette, and he says, "I'm going to go out and have a fag." So we're out front of the Sutton Place Hotel, and he goes, "Hey, boy, what part of London you from, man, mate, eh?" And I said, "Oh, I'm not from London. I'm Canadian." And he goes, "F me. F me. You had me, boy. You sound like you're right from Soho. Some Soho from South London." I said, no, I just watched a million hours of TV and whatever. And the producers of the show in LA, because we had no camera set up, they were asking, "Who's that actor we got hired for The Son? He's incredible. He's great." I'm not blowing my own horn saying this. This is just the story, okay? And they're like, "Oh, no, he's like in his 40s or whatever. He's from Canada." And they're like, "What?" And they thought I was this son, a 20-something son. A lot of fun. It was just great. And then in that same episode, or no, same series later on, I had to read Ray Winston's character and the lead bad guy. You know, "Ray's got that voice here, right, mate?" You know? And then I had to read this Russian guy, this Russian or Bulgarian, whatever. And so I read the whole scene, switching from South London, you know, into the Bulgarian and back and forth. And at the end of it, the producer stopped. He said, "Just a moment." And he just went... He started applauding me. It's lots of fun.
And with Stargate, you did makeup, you said. How did you take to sitting in the makeup chair for hours? I know some people find it challenging and have their skin ruined for weeks afterwards and things.
Exact opposite experience. I think it helps the fact that I was born on Halloween, always been into costumes and makeup and stuff. Seriously, for me, theater-based actor, it's like a freeing up experience. I go sit in a chair at like 3:30 in the morning. Basically, I fall asleep while the makeup men and women work their magic. And I wake up around 4 hours later and go, "Look, I'm a lizard. Cool." And it totally makes the character, because I find it enhances your performance, because you literally have been transformed into a lizard. For all extensive purposes, you are a lizard man. And that's the thing. I find it incredibly freeing. It allows the character to come up. And Dion and I both, we worked on this one episode called Foothold. Basically, we were sort of lobster men almost. Like we had these weird claw-like hands and faces and weird stuff. And we said, well, how would these guys move? Because we're theater-based and we worked on, well, if they lived underwater, they would be very powerful because they had to move through the resistance of the water. But what was it like for them to move in the air, and how did they overcome that challenge? We work on it all, and it's incredibly freeing to become another species, another creature. I just find it just releases all kinds of creativity. I know some actors that go, "Oh, like, you can't see me, this is bullshit, whatever." Okay, whatever, pal. Take a chill pill. But I find it very freeing. And how can you not fall into character? You're a lizard.
Must be frustrating at the end of the day when you're the last to go home, though, when you have to get it all off.
No, because the longer you work, the more you get paid.
Well, there's that incentive.
It's called golden hours or golden time. Once you get past 8 hours, you start getting money. Much to everyone's chagrin out there, listen, we Canadian actors, we don't get paid anywhere near what American actors get paid. I want to make that very clear right now. Put it this way, I had a buddy, we did a film together, and he got paid, in the end, about 10 times the amount of money that I got paid. In American, it's a huge disparity. It's unfortunate, too, because in America, it's all about, if you make more money, you're better than other people and this and that. And it leads to a lot of disparaging comments and things about Canadian actors getting referred to because we're so cheap. We're great. They want us to film because we're really good actors, but they want to pay us next to nothing. I hate to say it, but if you look at my resume, if you had my resume in the States, I'd own multiple houses. I would never have to worry about work. The guy who played the warden in the Shawshank Redemption, I saw an interview with him. He said he gets a 6-figure residual check every year.
Wow.
Movies that we do up here, like Hallmark films, I get paid just the Canadian day rate, my rate. And then after 5 years, if it's still playing somewhere, if it's still going, I might get a couple of bucks. I got some residual checks here the other day for $23 from this show, $48 from that show, $27 from this show, whereas my buddy got $50,000 US.
That's a jump.
That was one of his residuals for one movie.
I was talking to an actor recently, actually, who's Canadian. He was talking about the TV and film service industry that exists in Canada and how it's kind of diminished recently. Well, particularly because the CW is basically shut down, so they're not doing a million shows anymore, so there's less opportunities to 20-episode shows a year, multiples of them to get work.
It's not just diminished, it's gone. I don't even know what percentage we're at right now, but I think we're at 30% or less of the shows we should normally be having. I literally know people that have had to sell their houses to feed their kids. That's how bad it is. And people always think, oh, you actors get paid so much. No, we don't. As an example, I probably make what a school teacher makes at the end of the year, but I have to split 15% to my agent, then 30% to the government for taxes. So right there, I've lost 45% of my income. And GST, sorry, 5 more percent. I've lost 50% of my income to taxes and my agent, which, hey, listen, that's a business partnership. I'm not disparaging him for that at all. We've been a great relationship over the years, but that's the reality. We don't make tons of money. As an example, when I joined the union here, the Union of British Columbia Performers, that year, 95% of our union membership made less than $5,000 to $7,000 a year acting. The top 5% went from $7,000 to $20,000, $20,000 to $40,000, $40,000 to $60,000, $60,000 to $80,000, $80,000 to $100,000. One person in our union made $1 million. One person. And that's in the Vancouver Union. So you think 5% of us made 20,000 or more. And if you look at the numbers, like 95 made 5 to 7, then you know that the ones made 20 to 40 far outstrap the ones that made 40 to 60, 60 to 100. The numbers just keep getting smaller and smaller. So there's this illusion that we're all rich and whatever. No, we do it because we love it. And if you're lucky, you can make a living at it. With the slowdown here, and especially through Black Lives Matter, the Me Too movement, the face of the business changed and the middle-aged white guy was gone. I went 22 months without working a job. Even in voiceover. It happened in voiceover too. I was the voice of a bunch of different things in town, but I suddenly was the wrong gender, the wrong color, etc. And people say this like, oh, well, you complain you had a career all your whole life. I worked really hard my whole life. Forgive me. I have 7 years of post-secondary education that I did and I paid for myself. I was a lifeguard. I was a landscaper. I worked for $10 an hour under the table if and when we got paid and whatever else. I used to have $1 at the end of the week, a loonie. I would buy myself a can of Coke as a treat. We work hard with what we do. But to say that we're all cushy, well-paid actors and this and that, you have no idea. None. I meant the general person.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, I've talked to enough actors that have done the rounds in American productions being made in Canada to know that it isn't the golden ticket, so to speak, that some people assume it is. I love the CW shows. Watched a ton of the stuff you've been in, Supergirl, Arrow, iZombie, Supernatural, all of that. I love them. And when it seemed that the CW just completely shut down, it's turned into whatever it is now. It made me think, because I have interviewed so many actors, I'm just thinking all those work opportunities have just now dried up because it's all gone.
Well, it's all numbers. They've shut everything down. And not to jump on the thing again, but I was hooking up in the Zoom meeting, and the first thing the producer out of New York said was, all right, I want no blonde-haired, blue-eyed people in this movie. None of them. Wait a minute. So you can say no blonde-haired, blue-eyed people in the movie. That's not racism. All right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Whatever. And that's the point I was going to get back to. People say, oh, you guys, people like me, we've had these great careers, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, the difference is people of color, yeah, Hollywood's been shitty to them. Let's just face it. Not all Hollywood has. They've had small roles. Now it's expanded up. Everybody's up for everything. That is great. And I agree with it. The difference is I didn't become a worse actor either. And to not be allowed to audition based on my color and my race, hey, wait a minute. That's what all these people just fought to end. But I'll tell you, I know about a half a dozen guys. I'm not kidding. Like 3 or 4 guys had to sell their houses to feed their kids because we were not allowed to audition because we're middle-aged white men. And then during the strikes, forget the strikes, the writer's strike and the actor's strike. Oh, man. I went 22 months without working. Well, what did I do? I've been swinging a hammer. I do construction. I teach acting. I do production coordination work, whatever you need to do to make it work. Andy Garcia, when the strikes were on in the 80s, he was working on the docks in LA, unloading ships to feed his kids. There's no disgrace. There's no dishonor in that. And people say, oh, you do construction. I said, dude, I need to feed myself and my wife and my dog. We all have to take care of each other. You do what you have to do. When I have the pleasure of doing the field that I've trained for, great. But there's been a lot of changes in the world that have made it almost impossible. And the fact is, America is 10, 15 times larger population than Canada. We have an industry that's tiny, infinitesimal compared to them. That's why we service American productions, and that's our bread and butter. I get it. I would book 5 to 10 gigs a year. Look at my IMDb page. It's there. I went from that to 0. And that's not because I became a worse actor. And my coworkers as well. No, we were the wrong choice of the day, the wrong sex, the wrong color, etc. And people go, oh, boo-hoo, you're a middle-aged white man. You've had such privilege. you've never worked in the acting world. And if it was a privilege for me to be working for $10 an hour landscaping, and so I couldn't feel my hands, in order for me to become an actor and do what I wanted to love, if that was a privilege, okay, sure, I'll take that. I hate to see what wasn't a privilege, what terrible work you did that allowed you to fulfill your dreams. But anyway, point being, there's been a real paradigm shift in the whole thing. And inclusivity is great, but at the same time, at what price? Because a whole other swath of people got pushed out. And it doesn't get mentioned because, we were so privileged. I take issue with that because I tell you, I had nothing handed to me, man. And yes, maybe my color got me through not maybe. My color got me in the door, sure. But it's my talent and ability that got me jobs. And not my sex, not my color. That's crazy. And if you say that to other people, I did a show where this woman was complaining about the fact that she didn't have a career for 15 years. I said, wait a second. You're established. You had a career. Just the parts now have opened up for you a bit more. That's the difference. You've been working like crazy. Kind of shut her up for a little bit. I'll leave the names out. But me and another coworker, he hadn't worked in 24 months. And this guy used to have his own series. Probably people are going to hear this and get mad at me saying this stuff. But listen, it's a fact. It's reality. I did not become a worse actor in that time frame.
I think people will appreciate hearing anecdotes like that because it is real. I mean, it's an industry, right? And that's the way you describe it. It's an industry. It's about getting work. It's about doing work and so on. And yeah, there will be challenges and it's not all showbiz and glamorous. So I think people do appreciate hearing that. I certainly do. I like to know the ins and outs of these things.
In all honesty, the day before we left to go down to Disneyland, I'm literally renovating my friend's house. He just bought a house here in Vancouver. My other buddy is a full-time construction contractor who also is an actor. I managed to get working early on, and he managed to keep working in the construction industry, so we work together from time to time, and he has patience enough with me to hire me. But we literally are demolishing the house. I was covered in gypsum drywall dust, was ripping out walls, smashing stuff out, bagging up gypsum rock into garbage bags and carrying it downstairs, 50-pound bags. That's what I was doing the day before I went down for the premiere. So there you go. Am I still an actor? I'm a working actor? Yeah, sure. But the work is far and few between. And yeah, I swing a hammer to feed myself and my wife and my dog. You got to do what you got to do.
Oh yeah, you got to make the ends meet. Simple as that.
Yeah, and there's no shame in that. People go, oh, you did the what? You did what? Well, if you know anything, like I said earlier, do you know how many people don't make a living full-time acting? About 96 to 98% of us. There's a very small slice of the stars and those people. And again, I know some guys in the States that have done like 3 shows and they get residuals and whatever else, and they don't have to work. One guy was complaining about not having worked for a year the other day. And I'm like, yeah, but you made $500,000 US last year. I know that. So yeah, okay, I get it, not working stressful, but how about not working and making like $5,000 Canadian?
You hear about the series regulars that were on a show for 5 years or whatever. They had guaranteed 20 episodes a year for 5 years, and then the show ends and suddenly you're in the audition queue again and you're effectively back to square one. You might have some recognition because you were a series regular, but you are still fighting for those parts in the same way that other people were.
Oh, totally. I've only been offered parts, got a handful of times, and one of them, thank God, was Sam Egan, the showrunner of The Outer Limits. He basically recommended me for a few roles. And I've been offered a few. I did the Masters of Science Fiction, a Masters of Horror, a Masters of Sci-Fi. I worked with Brian Dennehy and John Hurt. But Sam basically offered me that position, and Jonathan Frakes, who directed William Riker. And he was like, yeah, I didn't get to see your audition because Sam recommended you, so you must be good. And I said, yeah, I think I am. But that's the thing. And you think of in a 30-year span of my career, pretty close, I have only been offered roles maybe 4 or 5 times in the big Hollywood paying structure. Lots of indies and stuff, sure. But stop and think of it. I have to go out and audition. I've got 170 something plus credits. And still all of us, like we were just talking about this the other day at the screening. Did these people not look at our IMDb page? Did they not look at our resume? Look at the demo reel. We're auditioning for stuff. I'm auditioning for whatever just to pay the bills right now. And it's kind of weird because I thought when I was coming up in the business that my resume, et cetera, would mean something. It doesn't mean anything. You have to audition for every little part all the time. Opposite of Kevin Costner. He goes, Alex, I saw you do so much bigger stuff in TV, and this is a small part. We're really glad to have you here. See, there's some acknowledgement. You see, he's a real human being where he knows how tough it is. And there's such a change in diversity there. And real quick story with that. One of the producers who shall remain nameless, super nice guy, David Valdez, I'll just say it. He had said I was close to getting the part of the Marshal in the movie. I auditioned for the part of the Marshal. And he said, you were just 15 years too young. Because he had to be the foil for Costner. And he said, but if you're 15 years older, you probably would be playing that part, maybe. And he said, don't tell anybody. I'll deny it if you do. So, David, forgive me if you hear this, but it's been enough years. I think we're cool. And there's that where people at least recognize your ability and your talent. And he was kind enough to come up and say that. And that's what I'm saying, that these people like the Costers of the world, the David Valdez, and this Final Destination movie I did with Craig Perry and Sheila Taylor, the producers of it, they've been on since the get-go, and Zach and Adam, the directors, they recognize your ability and they reward it because they want strong actors. They didn't necessarily need big names.
And in terms of some of the things you have been in then, the CW pool again, Riverdale is a show I absolutely loved just because of how insane it is. I just found it so entertaining just how
crazy
insane it was. And you were one of the Blossoms as well.
Uncle Bedford Blossom.
Yes, that must have been an amazing script to read and being in that very larger than life setup as well.
It was really fun because I knew Luke Perry from doing Jeremiah. I got called into audition for Jeremiah in 2000, 2001 with Sam Egan and Joe Michael Straczynski. And one of my favorite directors of all time who did Highlander, Russell Mulcahy, was directing. Anyway, Luke and I knew each other there. We went to the first day for the read-through, and I'm sitting down in my chair. I got there early, and all of a sudden this person comes from behind. He gives me a big hug over the shoulder. Alex, how the hell are you? And it was Luke Perry. All the kids around the table, who were a little haughty to begin with, for sure, and some stayed haughty, we're all like, ooh, this little Canadian reader. Oh, he's more than just a reader. Luke knows him. Oh, well. And then suddenly they all changed and treated me very differently. Riverdale was quite a challenge. A lot of kids on that show got told that they were going to be superstars, and I think they started acting like it. There was a few that stayed grounded and down to earth, but a few were a little too big for their britches. Good old Uncle Bedford helped slap them down a little bit. It's probably why I got killed off in season 3.
A lot of the Riverdale actors will be realising what it's like to work after a show that you were on is over, because as good as they are, you don't see an awful lot of them.
Well, no, because it was a one-off for probably a lot of them. That kind of show was a one-off. And they should be really proud and happy to be part of it. But the problem is their egos got a hold of them, a lot of them. I know that because I worked on it. No one knows this really, but I was the voice of the Black Hood behind the scenes for quite a bit of the season. Like, when Betty's having to talk to the Black Hood, that was me. But there was a lot of silly behaviors behind the scenes, and I can't stand it. And we were doing one scene, and this actress was on their phone going like crazy and whatever. And the director was giving direction. These kids were just taking pictures and doing social Instagram, whatever. That's why I hate that stuff for the most part. It just bugs me. And the director goes, okay, let's just shoot, and throws her hands up, or his hands up, I can't remember, in defeat, and walks away. So I just turned around and go, hey, do you guys know what we're doing? Why don't you put your phone down and listen to the director? And this person goes, yeah, I know what we're doing, this, that, and that. Oh, really? Really? Are you sure that's what the director said? Are you 100%? Really? Okay, let's roll the dice. Let's see what happens. The producers came over to me afterwards and said, thank you for doing that. Because if we do it to them, they'll just freak out and walk off the set or whatever, stupidity. I said, no problem. That's fine. So I did it multiple times throughout my time there. And I just didn't let them get away with their egotistical crap. And it was fine, but it was a show that I was fine to get killed off of. You know what I mean?
I just thought it was nuts. And I do think some of the young actors are very good. Camila Mendes, for example, I follow anything that she goes into. I think she's brilliant.
A lot of them are great, but when a bunch of sycophants go around them and say whatever they want to say to them to get them in the mood to do their acting, whatever, then they start believing it. And especially so young like that, they start believing I'm super important. Everything I say has power. It's a deadly slope because now, like you said, they're off the shows, and where are they now?
Yeah, a lot of them anyway. Yeah, you don't see an awful lot of them.
A lot of them. But she was quite nice. I liked her. She was good. Didn't have a really big ego.
That's a great anecdote about Riverdale then. And Batwoman was a really interesting one because you played two characters, one of which was a character pretending to be your character. It was Mouse, and I didn't take a note of the other character's name. A doctor.
The doctor. He ran the Arkham Asylum.
Did you talk to the original actor before taking on that role when you were pretending to be yourself?
I watched him. I'm so bad at this. Sorry, I've forgotten the gentleman's name. Really nice guy from Los Angeles. The actor who played Mouse. I should look it up. Or if you have it there, look it up while I tell a story. He was great. I talked to him, and I watched him act and watched what he did with his character so that when he kills me, spoiler alert, and takes my face and becomes me, then I can put little nuances of him. And then when I'm me, so you see my face, when I'm talking with my cohorts, then I could kind of act like him. And people said it was great. They really liked it, etc. I did 4-episode story arc, I think, on that show. And it was great. I had a great time on it.
Sam Littlefield was the actor's name.
Oh, Sam, yeah. Sam was great. Really sweet, nice. Everybody in that show was great. Except for Batwoman. She got replaced, and there's reasons why.
Yeah, I've read a lot about the behind-the-scenes stuff of season 1, and apparently season 2 was a better environment for everyone because they had a different lead.
Yeah, I did 4 episodes, and I don't know that she ever even said hello to me. We never had any scenes 101 per se, but you're sitting around in circles of people all day. I didn't matter because I wasn't from LA. I wasn't an important actor. Like, seriously, people would say, oh, hey, Ruby, this is Alex. I think she looked at me once and then just turned her head. And I had friends that worked on the show, and apparently she would just leave set and then go home. And she's supposed to be shooting. And so a lot of what you saw was actually her stand-in and other people doing the shots. They would shoot her face enough maybe just to get what she needed, and then she would just leave.
You would have done some scenes with Rachel Scarston because you're torturing Alice.
Yeah, Rachel and Sam were great. Seriously, everybody on that show, the crew, everybody's fabulous. And I think when they replaced Batwoman, it got better. But yeah, she wasn't the best person to work with. Let's put it that way.
Other actors I've spoken to have talked about how it's number one on the call sheet that sets the tone for a set, and how they run it is kind of how everyone will respond. And if the number one is chill, then everyone will have a great time. And if they're not, then they won't have a great time.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. Most shows I've worked on, people were great. Richie Dean Anderson, super cool, nice, chill. And he does a lot of improv and keeps it loose on set. I don't think in the 10 years that I came in, I did one episode a year, mind you, but in the 10 years I was involved in that show, I don't remember ever hearing a raised voice, period, or any stress, really. I'm sure it happened, but not really around me. And especially not from him. I never saw that from him or heard anything. That's the other thing. You hear the rumor mill. I never heard rumors about him. And I like remembering good shows. I like remembering good times. The bad times, I very rarely talk about the other stuff because what does it give you? I don't like that energy coming into my life.
Don't want a reputation for being negative as well.
Well, yeah, negative, but also you foster that energy. If that's the energy you foster. Joe Michael Straczynski ran Babylon 5. He's written iconic editions of comics, the post 9/11 issue, I think it was, of Spider-Man. This guy is amazing. And I auditioned for him for Babylon 5, Legend of the Rangers back in 2000, 2001. I had 14 pages of dialogue to learn on a weekend, including a huge monologue while having a staff fight. I came in, did the audition, and this is what I'm saying. We don't do in-person auditions anymore. They're a thing of the past, which really, pardon me, pisses me off. Because here's the thing. When you walk into a room live, you get to know the person. You get to feel your energy, who you are as a human being, what you might be like to work with. When I walked in and did my audition, after I got the role, Joe said to me, Alex, I wanted to hire you in the first 15 seconds that you walked in the room because of the energy that I, as Alex, bring in the room. Because when you're on set and you've got someone willing to work with you, who's got the ability and the intestinal fortitude and the talent to work with people, and that's just it. I'll take a good idea from anybody and incorporate it. I've had crew guys say, why don't you call him a jerk? I'm like, dude, that's great. Especially on Stargate, it was great. But that's my point. These people, they can recognize talent, and I recognize good people too. I know when I walked in a room with directors who are jerks, you can tell. You get a vibe off of somebody, right? But that's what's missing today. It's like Tinder, sweep left or sweep right. They look at your slate and, no, I don't like that look. I literally had a director I was working with, I was doing casting years ago, and he goes, nah, I don't want to look at this guy's audition. He reminds me of my ex-brother-in-law. Swipe. He was one of the best actors in town, and he just ignored him because he looked like his brother-in-law. Come on.
There is petty reasons that people don't get work. But in terms of the number one in the call sheet thing, Supernatural, which you were also in, I've heard nothing but good things about how Jared and Jensen ran that set, about how great they were to everybody.
Those guys were awesome. I was going to say a story about that earlier. Again, one of those things where I auditioned for a show a million times and didn't get on. And then this smaller role came up and they said, Alex, would you play the small role? Because we know you could do this role and you'll bring a lot of life to it. And it won't exclude you from auditioning for the rest. I said, yeah, sure. Okay. So I did a small teaser opener role. Never did get on the show again, but that's okay. It's always best actor for the job. It's like a puzzle. And if you fit the puzzle, you fit it. If you don't, you don't. And that's it. I get it. No ego involved. So anyway, they offered me the part and I said, sure. And Jared and Jensen, I didn't have any scenes of them, but they were on set that day. Well, they came up and introduced themselves first. I didn't have to introduce myself. They were right there saying hi and welcome to the show. They were totally cool. They were some of the nicest guys, and I only met them for a few minutes, but boom. That's what I'm getting at. See, they became a family like the Stargate clan. They were together like, 10, 11 years?
15.
Oh, was that 15? Oh my God, you're right.
They ran 15 seasons, yeah, and the final season was cut off by COVID as well, so that took a toll on it.
Suffice to say, they were so cool, and that's why it ran so long, because it worked so well. And remind me to tell you a quick story about a lady who literally got a show pulled from the air. So these guys were great, and I did the scene with Barry Bostwick. I was a drunk, sort of disgruntled magician. He's doing little card tricks, impressing this girl for amusement, and I'm just dissing him, and there's your card over here, lady. You see? That was one of my favorite deaths of all time, and I always forget this one because it was so short. We're all magicians at the Magician Festival. The episode literally is called Chris Angel is a Douchebag.
Yeah.
That's the name of the episode. And of course, they have a guy being the Chris Angel type and all these old magicians watching him. And one of them is an actual real old sorcerer. And when Barry Bostwick gets embarrassed by me, he goes off to do this big trick where it's a death of 12 blades. And if you don't get out in time, you're really killed. He doesn't get out in time. He dies on the blades. But his sorcerer transports his death or transfers it to my character. And we were shooting in the worst, roughest part of town, Hastings Street, about midnight. And I'm all rigged up with bladders of blood. And I'm walking along. And we did it in one take. This giant crane following me, looking at my face. It's going backwards. I'm walking forwards. And all of a sudden, I stop and I look down and all this blood starts pooling all over my white magician's outfit. I've got a hat and a cape and a bow tie. And all of a sudden, and I collapse to the ground and fall over backwards and and the crane just rises above me. Meanwhile, some of the street people in the back, the homeless folks are like, hey, somebody call an ambulance. He ain't going to make it. And then I walked back to my trailer and all that extra blood went into my shoes. And literally, as I'm walking, it's going sploosh and splashing out of my shoes. And I'm putting bloody footprints all the way back to my trailer down the roughest part of town.
I love that show.
It was great. It was a great show. I had lots of friends on it. My friend Ann Openshaw, she played a vampire on it. And she said those guys were great. They were awesome dudes.
And it's one of those things where, again, people have told me that it almost seemed like a rite of passage in the Canadian acting world to be on Supernatural, just because it was kind of a pillar of the community, so to speak.
I did Smallville. I played a doctor for Lex Luthor. Me and about 4 or 5 other actors were leaving audition at the time. And, oh, God, was it Peter Shinkota? Bunch of guys. And I actually booked 2 shows. I booked Superman on this one role, I playing a detective, and this other show. I actually booked it, that Eliza Dushku's show.
True Calling.
True Calling, thank you. They wouldn't release me. They said, I'll be done at like 6 o'clock. And no, we need you. So Superman wouldn't take me or whatever, Smallville. Then I booked another role, but we were saying, one guy had auditioned 14 times before he got in. Another guy 17. I still hadn't gone. I think I auditioned 17 or 18 times before I finally booked that show. I know a guy talked the other day. He said he auditioned 34 times before he got on a show. And that was probably Supernatural because it went for 15 years.
Michael Rosenbaum, he's very different in person to the Lex he played, isn't he? He's far less serious.
Yeah.
He has a podcast as well where he interviews people.
Yeah. I've seen him a few times. I'm going to say he's an interesting cat. Just put it that way. Not a horrible guy, but he's an interesting cat. I wouldn't say he's a saint. I wouldn't say he's a sinner. He's somewhere in between like the rest of us.
Fair enough.
I'm going to tell you real quick. I was at a show in 99 called Beggars and Choosers, and there was a lady on it who made life miserable for her. So bad that the studio said, if we have any more trouble with her, we're going to cancel the show. And she was, and they did. Then we found out she did that on purpose so she could get on a famous New York shot show. Because it was big profile and this was just a little HBO show. That does happen where you get people who are given bigger opportunities, but they're under contract and they have to get out and they can't quit. So they got to get fired.
The only way out is to be an unpleasant person and they want rid of you.
Her nickname became the Rattler. It's terrible, Ed.
Was that the story you were going to tell about someone that got a show taken off the air?
Yeah, that was the story. But I give you a very condensed version of it because I know I'm talking too much.
No, it's fine. I'm loving all this insight. So, Final Destination then. We'll close our interview on talking about that. You play Uncle Howard. How did getting into that movie come about? Big franchise movie? Well, it's a return of a big franchise movie.
Return of a big franchise. The directors, Adam Stein and Zach Lipovsky, they're like two halves of the same brain that come together and present exactly what's needed to be said to any crew, any actors, producer, etc., to get the point across and move forward and get the production done. And Adam, we were just talking at the premiere the other night. He goes, yeah, but we don't tell the kids we fight like cats and dogs off camera. Like any couple or partnership, they have their disagreements, but they present a unified front for the betterment of the whole production. I remember I auditioned for it, and then the writer's strike happened. Or sorry, the actor's strike happened. And I'm like, oh, man, that was on the short list, or I got it, but then the strike happened, they had to delay it. And I was like, oh, man. I was so disappointed because usually when that stuff happens, then the production goes away. It doesn't come back, or they go to some foreign place overseas and shoot it because now it's less money or whatever. But it didn't happen with this one. It came back. I can't remember the order of events exactly, but at some point I had a call back and still never had in-person auditions, which sucks because you don't get a sense of who the people are. You don't get a sense of who the directors are because my side too, I don't want to work with a jerk director. So they didn't get to know me. You don't get to know them, the producers, etc. But they asked to do a callback scene. And there's a scene between my sister in the movie, Darlene, played by Rhea, and myself. And I went, okay, I'm not taking any chance with these guys. I'm going to show them everything I can do. So I did 6 different takes of the same scene. 6 very different takes of the same scene. And they watched them all. And they loved it. And I booked it. And Sheila Taylor, one of the producers, there's a scene in the film where I come up to Steffi, my niece, and I say to her, like, you got to stay away from her mother. She's bad news. I'm just giving you the Coles Notes version. And Sheila said at the end of the day, Alex, you were so good. I just wanted to go over and hug you. You had me in tears. And I was like, wow. And I'll be quite frank. I think that Final Destination, and I'm in another show called School Spirits, TV show on Paramount Plus. Shot them both last year, second season of School Spirits, and then the movie. But I think Final Destination is some of the best acting I've ever done in my life. And it was great.
I was surprised by the amount of, well, from my perspective, TV actors that were in the Final Destination movie, because you had Rhea, who was in The 100, Richard Harriman, who was also in The 100, and Brett Bassinger in the prelude scene as well. It seemed there was a bit of almost a TV sensibility to it, certainly in the casting.
It's probably because they're rebooting the franchise, and they wanted a clean slate, except for Tony Todd, of course. He's the thread throughout the whole thing, right?
His final role, yeah.
That's right. And he was in all the Final Destination movies as well. It ties up his character's origins, everything. But I think that's just it. They were very smart. I don't think they really wanted big names in it because it gave them the freedom to do whatever. And then people have no preconceived notion on screen of who these people are. I mean, can you imagine having Kim Basinger, you were saying Brett Basinger, but Kim Basinger as Darlene or whatever? There's a whole history with her there. Nobody would be thinking about the film. They'd be thinking about her. So I think that was a really wise move on their part. Sure, I've done 175 shows, but I'm not super well known. Because I'm a character actor too. In the genres I do, in the sci-fi world, etc., yes, I'm fairly well known. And anime, whatever. But on the grand global scale, no. If you said, who's Alex Zahara? They'd be like, who? That's fine. Character actor, whatever. But that's what I'm getting at is I think it was a wise choice because now they have a blank slate and they succeeded. You haven't seen the movie yet.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I saw it last
You haven't seen it. What did you think? I'm going to turn the tail. Craig, tell me about the movie. What did you think?
I liked it. Yeah, I like the Final Destination movies. I think they are exactly what you expect from them. And I think this one was no different. There were some creative kills, and we'll definitely talk about some of that. And you were in a fair chunk of it. That scene you were talking about that you did for the audition, I really liked that scene. I think there was a decent amount of character to your character. He's a family man. He didn't have a great childhood, so he's very focused on giving his kids a great childhood and forgiving his sister as well. Like, here's a key, no questions asked, that kind of stuff.
But that's just it. And you've just hit the nail on the head. Adam and Zach said, I'm kind of the emotional backbone of the film. I'm the guy trying to keep everybody together and provide a happy childhood for the kids. I say it in the beginning of that scene. My sister and I did not have a great childhood. Our mother was obsessed with death and wouldn't let us do anything. And it was crazy. I don't want to give too many spoiler alerts away or whatever. Can't do that. And you saw it, so you know that. And that's just it. They said, wanted to look for the reality. And I always say this, everybody comes from a fairly functional or dysfunctional family, and it's on the spectrum back and forth. I've had my fair share of dysfunction with my family, plus function. So I drew a lot on real life, and we did a lot of rehearsal with that. Relative to most, you don't get a lot of rehearsal time. We did 2-3 days of rehearsal and improv these scenes around a bit. They drew upon different life experiences, but except for all the deaths and whatnot, the film is really close to my real personal life. I've had strained relationships with some of my relatives, my sister included. I have a half-sister, and I consider her a full sister as well, but a biological half-sister that I've recently discovered. Her name's Lynn, and we get along like a house on fire. We actually look more alike than my full sister and I. It's spooky, and we have the same sort of kooky sensibility and whatnot. Anyway, point being, Final Destination, the guys are amazing. It's just one of those films where everything came together and there was no egos on the set. And that's the thing I said about not having well-known names, I would say. They were really smart to do that because it allows the audience to experience the movie and not get drawn out. I was never drawn out in that film. I watched it all and it kept me going. I think it's a really good film. If you look at the craft of the filmmaking, the shots, the lighting, the costuming, in my humble opinion, I think it's quite a good film. And I'm not flogging it from my living room, you know what I mean? I think it's actually a really good movie.
Yeah, I thought it was very well made. Like I say, it was exactly what I expected. You go into a Final Destination movie expecting a certain type of thing, and it delivered.
But I think the difference is this for me. A lot of the previous Final Destination movies, they didn't have as much character development.
No, I would agree there.
There was a lot of backstory and character development. By the time the grandmother passes away, you actually care. And then by the time my character dies, people have known Howard fairly well at that point. You described my character perfectly. There you go. You got it perfect. That's exactly what they wanted to bring across. Exactly what I wanted to bring across. Family man, trying to keep everybody happy together because he had a shitty childhood. Perfect. That's everything. Those are all my points. We did it. Yoo-hoo. Here when I died, my point was when Howard dies, you hear people just like, ah! Mind you, because it's a pretty horrible death too. And we're not giving anything away because it's in the trailer. Death by lawnmower.
Well, that's a question I definitely had. What's it like setting up those domino effect death sequences? How much of it is practical? How much of it is added in later? What are you expected to do to be in the right place to film it and so on?
There was so much coordination going on because we were filming all those aspects at the same time. The big master shot and then coming in close. So the Jenga game's got to fall. And in my scene, you see it in the thing, the Jenga game's got to go. The trampoline's got to rip. The beer bottle falls. There was all these elements that had to happen. And I'm going to tell you, the crew was amazing. And they don't get enough praise. The gals and the guys in the crew were just incredible. Seriously. The Jenga people in particular, the props department had to make this Jenga that wouldn't fall over or could specifically just take certain ones out and then not fall over and then fall when it needed to fall. They had it all set up and they had them secretly marked because you had to reset the Jenga pieces exactly like they were. There was so much involved. We shot that over 3 or 4 days. And here's a mastery of the lighting department and the cinematographer. It was cold, foggy, damp, rainy, shitty, and you never know. It looks like a bright, sunny summer day the whole time. We had to wait one morning for the fog to dissipate in order to even shoot. I think it was the day that I actually died. I spent hours on my back on the ground in the cold, wet, muddy water. It looks like it's a lawn, but it was lawn, but a lot of it was a little bit of cesspool of water. Yeah, it's movie magic, man. Seriously. It really is.
You don't get the sense of bad weather at all when you see it. It looks like a great sunny backyard barbecue.
You're absolutely right. And again, that's a testament to the director of photography. He did an amazing job.
You say it was over 3 or 4 days. How many takes was it to get everything together? Did you film different parts of it at different times?
So you had a wide master shot, and then we went in on all the other stuff. So you've got 4 or 5 zones of activity happening. You've got the wide shot, and then you've got the Jenga game, you've got the trampoline, you got Richard Harmon, his character Eric, at the barbecue, you got my wife, played by April Tellick, doing cooking and doing stuff here, and then Darlene, my sister, arrives. Oh, and the kids behind the bar, Anna and Owen playing Bobby and Julie. There's all this activity. So they had to shoot all of the necessary aspects and pieces. And as you see from the trailer, there's tons and tons of shots, because when that piece of glass falls into the ice and then it gets scooped up and put in someone's drink, there's a great sequence where everybody's going to drink, and I go, cheers to family. You don't get to pick the one you get. You just got to love the one you got. And then we all go to drink and whatever. And then the one girl starts choking. You just don't know who's going to get that piece of ice. And then, of course, it ends up the ice gets knocked over, and my character steps on this big broken piece of glass that goes right through my foot. And real quick story, when I was 3 or 4 years old, I was so accident prone, dude. A steel spike went through a hunk of wood, and it went right through my moccasin I was wearing up my foot, and I was walking around and, mommy, and this piece of wood hitting the ground. I have a scar right on the top of my foot where they placed the glass.
Nice.
Probably 100 setups, seriously, at least, to shoot that. And by setup, I mean, they move the light, move the out, set the camera up and shoot. Move the light, do this, set the camera up and shoot. 100 times. Easily.
And did you see the final version of it when you just saw the film for the first time, or did they show you cut together?
A little bit in the ADR, maybe. When I did some ADR, I kind of got a hint at what was going to happen. But I didn't see the final thing till the advanced screening in Vancouver about 3 weeks ago.
It must have been great just to see all those disparate parts cut together into one sequence that lasts, I don't know, a minute? However long it lasts.
But all the effort from the PAs blocking traffic on the street to myself doing the acting, and all the lighting, the costume, everything in between. You just think of how the tens of thousands of human being hours and effort and creative energy to make that experience. It's crazy. I think it's a delightful film. I really do. Because the whole time you're like, ee. And then also, there was really genuine warm moments in the audience in LA the other night. My sister and I have a scene, and she says, I'm better off leaving my kids. And there's a big, oh. You heard that. So people were invested emotionally into it as well. It wasn't just like, oh, let's see who dies next and how horrible. There are some pretty horrible, disgusting deaths in there, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know it. We can't say too much, but my friend Bernard Cuffling plays the maitre d' who gets mushed by the elevator. That was particularly disgusting. And then another friend of mine, Travis Turner, he plays the elevator attendant. There's lots of Vancouver guys in there that have parts, and such a great job. Honestly, there's not a weak link in that movie for acting, I don't think. I think everybody did a great job.
Is that where it was shot? Yeah, Vancouver.
All over Vancouver in the Lower Mainland. Yeah.
Cool. How much time did you get with your on-screen family to bond before camera started rolling?
Fair bit. We did a bunch of rehearsals. So because we did rehearsals, you got to know people ahead of time. Usually, especially in Vancouver, you just show up in the day. Hi, this is Fred. This is Jim. This is Sally. Let's make a movie. Okay. And we're all supposed to be a family and know each other for our whole lives. This one, I think my character had 2 or 3 days of rehearsal. I can't remember exactly, but I know they rehearsed over a week or so in different scenes, which is almost unheard of these days because everything wants to rush. Let's go. Let's film. But granted, you've lived enough life. You've done stuff. You've made your choices. You can walk in and I can play that. That's my child. That's my child. There's my wife. April and I, we've played husband and wife in 1 or 2 other shows. I think we've done like 3 or 4 shows, but every show I've been in with her, I've died. She was one of the leads in The Immortal with Lorenzo Lamas. I get taken off into the bushes by some little gnome demons, whatever. I was a demon, rather. And these little gnomes take me off and cook me up and eat me. And then in The Collector, I was like a guy making a deal with the devil, and she was my wife. I get dragged to hell through the oven because I was a chef, and I tried to cook my wife, and that was my last deal with the devil. If I cooked her, and then, of course, she's saved, and I go to hell, and now in this one, I die and she lives. So there you go.
As you've already said, you do enjoy an on-screen death.
It's true.
It must be a lot of fun to set them up and see it happen.
Yeah, especially, this one here, and I'm not giving it much away because you see it in the trailer. It's death by lawnmower.
It's in the trailer, yeah.
The underside of the lawnmower, it's all foamed out on the underside, so there's room for my face to go in. But still, there's the hub of where the engine would be there. So as they lowered it over my face, I had to turn a little bit or just get my nose out of the way so I wouldn't get crushed. But they had the top set up where the housing was full of meat and blood and crap under high pressure. So when they dropped it and it just splooshes out, my face is getting chopped up and I'm like, twitch. I think we only shot it a couple of times, 2 or 3 times. It looked so great. But it was a lot of fun, except for lying in the cold wet. That was not fun.
Big shout out for practical effects then. They more than still have a place.
Are you kidding? That whole sequence with the restaurant, that's a practical stage, a gimbaled stage. That was incredible. They invited me on to set to come look around and during the reshoots and whatnot as well. And the whole thing with the RV that flips over and this pond, it's crazy. I'm not giving too much away. Shh.
No, not at all. Most of what you said is in the trailer, so it's all good.
Exactly. So there you go.
It sounds like it was a great experience. Like I say, I saw the film last week. They were previewing it. I saw it with a double bill with the first one.
Oh, no way. So they bookended.
Yeah, kind of. Even though they have almost nothing to do with each other, except from Tony Todd.
But there's an inciting incident in Final Destination that does tie, thus the term Bloodlines, all the films together. I thought they did a really crafty job. The writers did a really crafty job of doing that. And for me, I was just really happy to be part of it because as an actor, we all have a bit of ego and I'd like to be remembered as a pretty decent actor, pretty decent guy. Well, this franchise is going to live on long after me, hopefully, and I think it will. And it's just nice to know that I'm part of the franchise now. And I hate using the word sometimes franchise, but I'm part of a legacy. I'd rather say a legacy of the films. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I've got one more question. We always ask this on this for a nerdy podcast because we cover a lot of superhero stuff. You've been in superhero stuff. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, man. I'm going to give you two answers because I'm going to chicken out. One, emotional truth. If I could be emotionally truthful all the time with myself, with everybody, and be able to read people's emotional truth. And of course, the second one, fly. I'd like to be able to fly. I didn't have to have super strength, but I just want to fly. I was a little kid. I used to have dreams of flying, literally jumping off my grandma's porch and just struggling to get into the air, and I'm up. Seriously, I would love to be able to fly. I wanted to become a pilot when I was a kid, but a little bit of red-green color blindness and couldn't pass the tests. And you don't want me as your airline pilot. Trust me. Fly would be great. To be able to fly and tell if people are lying or if I'm being truthful to myself. There you go.
If you can only fly, you'll need a warm jacket if you're going high.
True. Hey, you know what? Flight with impervious to weather. Okay, I'll be Superman. There you go.
Just all of them.
What about you? What would yours be?
Mine would be speed because I want to be places quickly, but also still want to see stuff. So I can look at things as I'm running past them, but I would still be there quickly.
Yeah. Like what's the character in the X-Men movies? It's
Quicksilver. Or the
Quicksilver.
Flash.
I love Quicksilver's character, the kid that plays him, the guy plays him. I love the sequences they have where he's making a meal, people are shooting around him and he's adjusting their hats. I love that. Yeah, so super speed. Okay, I want it all.
They did some sequences like that in the Flash TV show as well. Not to the same scale because it's a TV show, but they did it anyway.
Yeah. Real quick, talking about scale. I did Reds and Rising, a 2-part story arc written by James Cameron of Dark Angel. He wrote a sequence where my super soldiers were trying to hunt her down. And we were a bunch of South African baddies and I was the head of them. And my super soldiers were battling Jessica Alba's character on a bus. They would jump off an overpass through the roof of the bus and battle and destroy the bus as it drove along. That sequence alone, they said, would have taken over a month to film. And they're like, James, you got to change what you're doing here, man. This is TV, dude. Anyway, there's one for you in terms of getting it done in scale and time. But it's been a real privilege, and I hope to keep acting till I croak. Final Destination, I'm being deadly serious here. I've gone through the ringers of this business, and it really was a pleasure. It felt like coming home and being in a family, and the people that have done this show, Warner Brothers publicity has just been amazing, by the way. You should see the promotional stuff they've got going. It's just such thought put into it. And here's real quick. My wife and I were staying in Anaheim because we went to Disneyland, and it's like an hour and a half to get into LA driving. The traffic. So we couldn't go back to change after going on the Warner Brothers tour. So they gave us a place to change at New Line Cinema's offices. New Line's behind the film as well. But they did the Lord of the Rings movies, etc. And I just finished listening to the Making of the Lord of the Rings with Peter Jackson, that book. And here we are in the giant ladies' washroom. We have all our clothes in one bag and we put it against the door. It's 5 o'clock. There's nobody really there. And we're changing and sprucing up for the premiere on the Warner Brothers lot at the New Line offices in the ladies' washroom. Talk about bizarre. When I was 11 years old and I stood in John Wayne's footsteps in the Grauman's Chinese Theater at the time, thinking, oh, it's so cool to be an actor. Literally 4.5 decades later, here I am, or 3.5, whatever it is, standing at the theater and my movie that I'm in is playing and having its premiere. It was just a full circle moment of my life that I'll never forget.
That sounds amazing. The film is very good. And I think genuinely people will remember your character after the credits have rolled because I do believe that he makes an impression in the scenes that he's in. He's in a fair chunk of the first act. And I think at the end of the film that will be remembered. So you should definitely be very proud of it.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thanks very much for your time here as well.
You're welcome, babe. Real quick, when I came out, I got inundated by fans because I wore my Hawaiian shirt that I died in. When I filmed the movie, I had an audition the next day and it literally said, Philip wears a loud Hawaiian shirt. I didn't have one. So I asked costumes and the nice lady there said, here, you just have this one. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, wow, thanks. And I've kept it. And I wore it to the Vancouver premiere and I wore it to the LA premiere, or Vancouver screening and the LA premiere. And we have one tonight for cast and crew. But anyway, we got there. I wore that. Dude, it's just like it's a full circle moment. Anyway, I could go on. And I think I've lost train of what I was saying, but it was just such an amazing experience of, oh, that's what it was. I wore that shirt. And when I came out of the theater, the fans just surround. I had like 60 people just surrounding me, asking for photos and this and that, whatever. And I had to go to the bathroom, and I was holding it. I'm like, oh, okay. So I did a bunch, and then finally went, guys, I'll be honest, I really got to pee. Let's do a group one. So we got about 10, 15 people in. We took a big group photo, and then I ran to the washroom.
Brilliant. Amazing. Thanks very much for your time. You've been very generous with it, and you've given a lot of great insight into all the stuff you've done over the years in Hollywood. And I hope that Final Destination will lead to more big projects that will be worldwide releases.
So do I. Thank you for that. I won't hold my breath, but I thank you for that.
And you're welcome on here anytime to talk about anything you're working on. Happy to have you on again.
Oh, thanks, buddy. You're a really relaxed interviewer and dude, so give me a shout anytime, man.
Good luck. Good luck with everything.
Take care, Craig.
That was my conversation with Alex Zahara. All the best to him for his future projects. If you like what you heard, please do subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Please leave us a 5-star rating and a review as well. If you want to talk about anything discussed here or anything else, you can hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, and Blue Sky under Kneel Before Blog, or you can leave a comment under kneelbeforeblog.co.uk. You can also join us on Discord. For more interviews, a monthly news podcast, and deep dive analytical discussions about your favourite nerdy things, you can continue to join us on Kneel Before Pod.